Hello, hello. You see where I am today? Look at this. Isn't it beautiful? I set it up in the tree so that you could see the beautiful creek and hear it and be out in nature while I am reading you The Science of Getting Rich, Chapter 4. Hi, my love. I love you so much. I'm here and I'm so excited to be reading you this next chapter. All right, so let's get started. Chapter 4. The first principle in the science of getting rich. Oh, maybe he'll tell us the secret this time. Thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance. The stuff from which all things are made of is a substance which thinks, and a thought of form is the substance produces of form. Original substance moves according to its thoughts. Every form and process you see in nature is visible expression of thought in original substance. Look at that. So all somebody had to do was just think. Think about, what am I going to do to make this happen? Look how beautiful it is. It's so amazing. As the formless stuff thinks of a form, it takes that form. And as it thinks of a motion, it makes that motion. That is why all things were created. We live in a thought world, which is a part of a thought universe. The thought of a moving universe, extended, thoughtless, formless substance, and the thinking stuff moving according to that thought, took the form of systems of planets and mountains that form. Thinking substance takes the form of the thought and moves accordingly to the thought, holding the idea of the circling system of suns and worlds. It takes the forms of bodies and moves them as it thinks. Thinking the form of slow-growing oak tree, it moves accordingly, and produces the tree through centuries may be required to do the work. In creating the formless seems to moving according to the lines of motion it has established. The thought of an oak tree does not cause the instant formation of the full-grown tree, but it does start in motion the forces which will produce the tree along established lines of growth. Every thought of form held in thinking substance causes the creation of form, but always, or at least generally, along the lines of growth and action already established. The thought of a house of a certain construction, if it was impressed upon formless substance, might not cause the instant formation of the house, but it would cause the turning of creative energies already working in trade and commerce into such channels as to result in the speedy building of the house. And if there were no existing channels through which the creative energy could work, then the house would be formed directly from primal substance, without waiting for the slow process of the organic and inorganic world. It's very, very organic out here. It's so beautiful. No thought of form can be impressed upon original substance without causing the creation of form. Do you hear that? Here comes an inkling. It's so awesome to be out here in nature. I just love it. And you have inspired me so much to do my reading. It's just amazing. I love you, baby girl. You're so amazing. My Mercedes ring. Man is thinking centered and can originate thought. All the forms that man fashions with his hands must first exist in his thought. He cannot shape a thing until he has thought that thing. And so far man has confined his efforts wholly to the work of his hands. He has applied manual labor to the world of forms, seeking to change or modify those already existing. He has never thought of trying to cause the creation of new forms by impressing his thoughts upon formless substance. When man has a thought form, he takes material from the forms of nature and makes an image of the form which in his mind he has so far made little or no effort to cooperate with formless intelligence, to work with his Father. He has not dreamed that he can do what he sees the Father doing. Man reshapes and modifies existing forms by manual labor. He has given no attention to the question whether he may not produce things from formless substance by communicating his thoughts to it. We propose to prove that he must do so, to prove that any man or woman may do so, and to show how. At our first step, we must lay down 3 fundamental propositions. What do you suppose that would be? First, we assert that there is an original formless stuff or substance from which all things are made. All the seemingly many elements are but different presentations of one element. All the many forms found in our organic and inorganic nature are but shapes, different shapes made from the same stuff. Maybe that's where same thing, only different come along. Thought is thinking substance, produces shapes, and man is a thinking center, capable of original thought. If a man can communicate his thought to original thinking substance, he can cause the creation or formation of the thing that he thinks about. Well, look at that. To summarize this, there is thinking stuff from which all things are made and which it is original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner space of the universe. A thought is a substance, produces the one thing that is imaged by thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the things that he thinks about to be created. It may be asked if I can prove these statements, and without going into details, I answer that I can do so both by logic and experience. Reasoning back from the phenomenon of form and thought, I come to an original thinking substance, and reasoning forward from the thinking substance, I come to man's power to cause the formation of the thing that he thinks about. And by experiment, I find the reasoning true, and this is my strongest point. If one man who reads this book gets rich by doing what it tells him to do, that is the evidence in support of, if one man who reads this book, in support of my claim. But if every man who does what it tells him to do to get rich, that is positive and proof until someone goes through the process and fails, the theory is true until the process fails, and the process will not fail every man who does exactly what the book tells him to do to get rich. So you got to pay attention, and you've got to listen to what he tells you to do. So, I have said that men get rich by doing things in a certain way, and in order to do so, men must become able to think in a certain way. This is why when you are dreaming, you're thinking about it first. And when you think about it first, then you come up with ideas on how to make it. And then you put it into action, and it's possible. It's amazing. A man's way of doing things is the direct result of the way he thinks about things. To do things in a way you want to do them, you will have to acquire the ability to think the way you want to think. And this is the first step towards getting rich. Think the way you want to think. Think in your mind first and then create. To think what you want to think is to think truth regardless of appearances. Every man has the natural and inherent power to think what he wants to think. But it requires far more effort to do so than it does to think the thoughts which are suggested by appearances. To think accordingly to appearance is easy. To think truth regardless of appearance is laborious and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work man is called upon to perform. So you can't even listen to other people's opinions. You just have to think it in your own mind, and then it comes true. Every man has the natural inherent power to think what he wants to think, but is required far more effort to do so. And I think that I already read that one, so I'm going to move on over to the next chapter, the next paragraph. There is no labor for which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearances. Every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. And this can only be prevented by holding the thought of truth. To look upon the appearance of disease will produce the form of disease in your own mind, and ultimately in your body, unless you hold the thought of truth, which is that there is no disease, it is only an appearance, and the reality is health. So whatever you think about, you bring about, so remember that. To look upon the appearance of poverty will produce corresponding forms in your own mind, unless you hold truth that there is no poverty, there is only abundance. It's our birthright to be abundant in everything, in money, in beauty, in stuff, in things, and friends. Hello, friends. To look upon the appearance of poverty will produce corresponding forms in your own mind, unless you hold to the truth that there is no poverty, there is only abundance. I think health, when surrounded by the appearance of disease, or to think riches, when in the mindset of appearance of poverty, requires power. But he who acquires this power becomes a mastermind. He can conquer fate. He can have what he wants. He only has to have a powerful, controlled mind to only think the thoughts that are true. This power can only be acquired by getting a hold of the basic facts, which is behind all appearances. And the fact is that there is one thinking substance from which and by which all things are made of. Then we must grasp the truth that every thought held in the substance become a form, and that man can so impress his thoughts upon it as to cause them to take form and become visible things. When we realize this, we lose all doubt and fear, for we know that we can create what we want to create. We can get what we want to have and become what we think about and what we want to be. We just have to think it first. As the first step towards getting rich, you must believe the three fundamental statements given previously in this chapter. And in order to emphasize them, I will repeat them here. Here we go. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. So man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. You must lay aside all other concepts of the universe than this monistic one, and you must dwell upon this until it is fixed in your mind and has become your habitual thought. Read these creed statements over and over and over again. Fix every word upon your memory and meditate upon them until you firmly believe what they say. If a doubt even comes into your mind, Cast it aside as a sin. Do not listen to the arguments against the idea. Do not go to churches or lectures where a contrary concept of things is taught or preached. Do not read magazines or books which teach a different idea. If you get mixed up in your faith, all your efforts will be in vain. Do not ask why these things are true, nor speculate as to how they can be true. Simply take them on trust. The science of getting rich begins with the absolute acceptance of fate. So let go and let God and dream big, and you can have whatever you want. I promise, honey bunny. I love you so much. Have a super night. Bye-bye.